I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. Before we get started, I just want to read, because now we're just in person here, the public participation. The public is welcome to participate throughout the meeting. Participation is managed by the school committee chair, and participants are expected to share respectfully. Public comment is reserved for anyone who wishes to bring an issue or question to the school committee. The school committee may not respond and/or may choose to place an item on a future agenda in order to ensure that other members of the public know what is being discussed. Just wanted to make everybody aware of that. And now I'll take the roll call. Janet Eichen.
Present.
Timothy West.
Present.
It's Kelly. No, I was going to say Holly, but then I thought maybe I shouldn't joke. Kelly Hooper. Here.
It's not there.
Joe Petrosky is not here yet, but I believe he's coming.
He's coming.
Josh Dandawali and Amelie Group. Here. And
So
I'm
nice
here
to
as
see
well.
our student reps tonight.
Yeah.
Yes.
They don't need
Your
to be here.
final meeting.
Not always.
Adjustments to the agenda.
I have multiple adjustments. So I made a second agenda with the changes on it. Kelly, if you want to pass it down to Amelie. These ones aren't stapled. One for you.
Thank you.
And then these go this way. And then after you get these, there's more adjustments to this because I waited till the very last minute to make the adjustments for, I can't remember what article it is. I mean, it's 5.6, not article, but number. 5.6 is the amounts we're going to transfer. And so I have changes to that. I'll report it now and then I'll tell you about it, remind you about it when we get to it. We needed to add monies to Article 7 and to Article 10, and I will tell you where they're coming from when we get to that point, but just make note that we'll be changing where we're transferring monies to. And I waited till, we now completed all of our payrolls, and so we have some more sense. I'll talk more about it when we get into the articles, or into the, whatever, the agenda. So let me read it for the record. I should read those. We want to add a 5.9, which is to elect Jeff Ladd as a grade school guidance counselor for the 21-22 school year as recommended by the superintendent of schools. And then add resignations, 3 resignations all came in today. Crystal Anazuski, English librarian at Winthrop High School. Hillary Caudle, grade 2 at Winthrop Grade School. And Devin Custer, speech language district-wide. What? No, I have. I wasn't going to add it now, but that's right. These are all informational. We anticipate others. We're already aware of others, but I didn't have the letters. So those are the other changes that are on here.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Winthrop School Committee meeting of June 2nd, 2021 as written or with corrections.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Vote passes 4-0. Reports. Superintendent report.
I sent out my report to you guys in advance, so hopefully you've had a chance to look through it and answer any questions on that. I also wanted to report that our ESSER application initial part of it, the ESSER 3, is pretty much done. I don't believe the state has received, they still have only received 2/3, right, of their money. That's what I understood. So they made application for the remaining. So that means we can only apply for 2/3 of the money, which is fine because we are looking to spread that money over 2 years, so it's fine. That has been submitted, almost submitted. Right, okay. Looking for Megan for confirmation. And I talked to Amanda today that the pretty much have all of the receipts in for our CRF funds. I know these, we were talking before, we're having a hard time keeping track of them, so I'm sure you guys are as well. But just remember that we had to pay out money, and then it's a reimbursement model. So we have sought reimbursement for CRF 1 and CRF 2. CRF 1, we pretty much already had all of that money back. So CRF 2 is pretty much submitted and waiting for that reimbursement. I mentioned this before, but it's worth mentioning again, particularly as we look at over finances a little bit later, that we're not going to be as much of a hurry as I was feeling like I was about figuring out the amount of carryover. I will tell you that when I met with Jana and Sue and our pre-committee, I'm a little bit nervous about the amount of money that we have to carry over. It's significant. So that could lead to a very interesting conversation for us to have, very creative, maybe with the town and whatever later on, but we'll cross that bridge. But my point here tonight is that because of when we do our audit, Vernice Boyce, who's going to be serving as our business manager next year, has basically said to us, don't worry about trying to figure out what your balance is. Just carry everything forward as undesignated balance. And when we get all our FY21 receipts paid, everything's up to speed, then we'll be able to then go to the town and ask them to create some accounts, reserve accounts for us. So in other places where I've been, when they did the audit in July, there was a lot of pressure to get all of those accounts paid and have a number for the auditor or for the school committee to work with by the end of the fiscal year. We're not required to do that because our audit is a little bit later. So that's really welcome news to me. And let's see. I've just reminded the budget validation referendum is set for June 22nd, and that will be that's at the high school. It will be from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's when the vote is, and so certainly encourage your friends and neighbors to get out. I don't anticipate it should be a controversial vote this year, but you never know. And often when you have a standalone item like that, people just don't show up, and so it's really possible for people who are opposed to the budget to come out and vote it down. So please don't let that happen. Encourage your friends and neighbors to get out and vote in favor of the budget.
Jim, can you do a little, just a little, I don't know if you're going to put anything in the advertiser or not, but maybe just a little write-up and we can.
I did already.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, I will put that on the Facebook page then.
Okay. And then the last thing I want to remind you of before I do appointments and such is, actually I sent you a memo, it was in your packet, the memo I sent to Jeff Colbrook. I'd asked him about the process of going to the town council. The issue is this, he wrote back to me and said July 12th, they'll take it to the council for them to consider the proposal to increase the school committee stipends. I have no idea where I'm going to be on July 12th. There's a pretty good chance I will not be here. And he didn't clarify whether it's going to be in person or via Zoom. It may be both, because that's what they did last meeting. But I guess I really need to make sure that we have coverage there, or some or all of you can be there, either through Zoom or in person, to speak on behalf of that. I think I've covered in my memo, why we making that request, what it equates to. I think what you'll find for resistance is, in talking to Jeff, he's obviously not opposed to it, but you never know with the council, because the process for them, their stipends are ridiculously low as well, but the process for them to change theirs is they have to change the whole charter. So they may be resistant to changing yours because they really can't change theirs. And just like we're not changing the charter just for that, so just be prepared for that. So the people, do you have any sense yet whether any of you know whether you can be there?
I have no idea, but I just put it in my calendar, so I will try to be there.
If it's Zoom, I can. It's not that difficult.
Okay. Well,
July 12th or so.
yeah, we'll have a little bit of time. I'll even though I'm going to be on vacation, I can touch base with whomever between now and then. And I'll touch base with him too. He's going on vacation this week, so he hasn't been around for me to talk to. I just want to tell him that July 12th is like the worst night he can pick for me, but I probably should schedule everything around my schedule.
Do they normally meet at 7?
Yes, they do. Yeah.
If it is Zoom, I can go, I can attend the meeting.
Yeah. Okay, and it's possible where I'm taking my computer with me, so I may be able to attend via Zoom too, but I think it would be good to, if anybody, a couple of you can be in person.
Yeah,
I think they have a harder time saying no to you when you're sitting right in front of them.
yeah.
That's sort of typical human nature, but anyway. Any questions on that? Okay. Resignations? Yep, I'm sorry.
Not on what you were just talking about, but I do have a question about your report.
Yeah.
On the second page, you mentioned adding a discussion for the creation of a full-time position to serve as the dean of students,
Yes?
and that you were thinking about putting it into the teacher CBA. And I'm just wondering why
No.
teacher versus.
Did I say that?
Mm-hmm.
On the teacher scale.
I said on the teacher scale, not on the teachers. It's already in the administrative CBA.
Oh, okay.
And I just am recommending that,
It's right here, Jim.
see this position as being on the teacher scale, that's why it's in quotes.
Okay.
And if you see my further recommendation I sent you guys, it has a recommendation that we need to talk, one of the things we'll be talking about in the executive session.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, so moving on, no appointments, 4 resignations tonight. Kelsey, well, these are all big losses for us, I would say that as a system. And they're all very unique and you know, why this is happening. Kelsey Willett, the Spanish teacher at the high school, Crystal Ann Zuski, English librarian at Winthrop High School, Beverly Paul, grade 2 with grade school, and Devin Custer, speech language district-wide. This is the second district I've been a superintendent that Devin has left. I wonder if there's a common denominator here. Actually, I know that's not true. But no retirements and no transfers. And that's my report.
I've only read one of the letters of resignation so far. Were any of these resignations because of school climate or anything we've done?
Nope.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I will say they all 4 of them wrote very heartfelt thanks for being in court here, how much they enjoyed it here, and you know, I really can't speak to what they're individually doing, but it was an easy choice for me. None of them were unhappy.
So it's nothing we would need to address.
It's about the new school board members. I don't know the school committee members.
That's Tim.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I really, sincerely, I didn't get that sense at all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm actually going to read a letter from one of the teachers that put in her resignation. She sent a letter along with her resignation. I'm only going to read the letter that was addressed to us, not her resignation letter, but from Crystal Inazuski. So she wrote, Dear Superintendent Hodgkin and members of the Winthrop School Committee, I know the Superintendent Hodgkin will be announcing my resignation tonight at your meeting. However, I am also including you on this email because I want to share my letter with you. In addition to the contents of the attached letter, I want you to know how much your support means to me and continues to mean to the faculty and staff in the Winthrop Public Schools. You are a special group of stakeholders. I have worked elsewhere and did not feel the same level of support as I have from the Winthrop School Committee. Here, the committee and schools are aligned to achieve job number 1, giving students the best education possible. While I no longer will be an employee in Winthrop, I will always be a proud and grateful community member, knowing that the people who have the very best interest of our students in mind are at the helm of our organization. Those people are all of you. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve my community with best regards, Crystal. And I also have another letter I'd like to read from Kathy Gillis-Solton, one of our retirees. Dear Superintendent Hodgkin and the Winthrop School Committee, thank you so much for the amazing party on June 9th. It felt so good to be with so many of my colleagues and friends. I'm quite honored to have been recognized. Thank you so much for the kind note and beautiful mug. You were so kind and thoughtful. I love the idea of holding this kind of celebration each year. It will be be wonderful to celebrate the school year together. You made my day. Thank you for your thoughtfulness. Fondly, Kathy Gillisold. And that is all I have for the chair report.
Oh, are you gonna remind them
I'm going to do that at the end.
about?
Is that okay?
It's fine.
All right.
I can move it.
That way they can remember a little bit better.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to committee reports. Finance.
None at this time.
Not this time. Okay, for policy, we did not have a policy committee meeting today, and we will not have one next month either, so our next meeting will be in August. Negotiations?
No, nothing to update right now.
Just that we're gonna meet in executive session tonight to talk about the administrators collective bargaining agreement.
Curriculum? Anything? And renovation, construction?
Not at this time.
Okay, administrators reports.
We have them in our,
We have them in our packet. Does anybody have any questions or follow-up that they need to?
just thank you for the information.
Yeah. Anybody?
I feel like I made a note, hold on just a second. Oh, yes, on the mic,
Yes.
Mike?
on.
Sorry, I'm looking at the agenda.
You're up. So I was reading through your update, but I didn't see anything about the security and parental control type update, and I'm wondering where you're coming with that. The concerns that were raised about kids being able to access sites that maybe aren't safe for kids to be accessing.
I mean, from my perspective, we are complying with any of the SEPA regulations and blocking any harmful sites that we're required to by the federal government in cooperation with any of the federal funds that we receive. So there's certain categories of like weapons and pornography and various other categories that are automatically blocked by our firewall. So those are all addressed automatically. One of the changes I think that came out of an 18 meeting, or was the last one or the previous one, was a concern of YouTube at the grade school. Everybody was in favor of blocking it for students, and I found a roundabout way to block it at the grade school for students. We have a single firewall for the district, so we don't have a firewall per building. But I had a little bit more control at the grade school on the wireless side of the world, that I could block it just for the students' Wi-Fi and not for the faculty's Wi-Fi.
Thank you very much.
Problem?
Anybody else? I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but we have Susan Pilot with us, and she is going to be our new middle school principal. So in case anybody didn't know that, I should have introduced her at the beginning. Sorry about that, Susan. So I'm glad you could join us.
Welcome.
Okay, old business. Discussion of the process of transferring funds to prevent overspending on any article.
So this is just the discussion part. The action part is a little bit later, because I mentioned it before. The law requires that we cannot overexpend in any one of our articles. So as we get to the end of the year, this being the last meeting of this financial or fiscal year, then we need to transfer money in places we are either over or anticipate being over when the final bills are all paid. So that's what the recommendation is later on, but I just wanted to talk to you about, or just give you the opportunity to ask me questions about the process, why we do this. And Article 9 is the place that, if you look at the financials I gave to you, you might say, Article 9 has a lot of money in it. But there are a lot of things that are pending that are coming out of Article 9. And so when we make those purchases, and they will, even though we may not make those purchases until July or August, they're FY21 purchases, and they will be charged back to FY21. So we need to make sure that we have money in there to do that. If you wonder, if you look at the financial I gave you, the most money that we have left at the end of this year is in Article 1. But even on the last one that I have, which is today, after our last last warrant for payroll. We still have $778,000 left in there, which sounds like a lot of money. And other articles have payroll in there too. One is obviously the largest, but our anticipated summer salary amount that we're gonna have to transfer to summer salaries is over $850,000. So that won't count. I mean, it won't matter. That it won't be coming from Article 1 per se. That'll be, as I was saying before, when we look at the undesignated balance for the year, which you can kind of see where we're going to be by looking down at the very bottom. Under, it says total articles 1 through 11, go all the way up to the amount remaining. Subtract about $850,000 from that, and you'll see what we still have available for a balance, and you can see it's still pretty hefty. But ultimately, that bottom line is when it's all, look at all the articles, after all the bills are paid, then whatever that amount is, that's what we designate for summer salaries. That's what that $851,000 will come from. So we're in very, very, very good shape with respect to that. So that's the process. Anybody have any questions about the process? Because we'll get to an action item here in a second.
You ready to move on to the
I'm ready. Well, no, actually, that's for some reason, I don't know why.
Oh, it's under new business.
It's under new business, that's why. Yeah, we had talked about that, so it is under new business, right?
Okay, I will entertain a motion to elect Joel Stonton to the position of Facilities Director / Athletic Director for the Winthrop Public Schools effective July 1st, 2021.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion.
It only was posted in-house. We had one other person who was interested in. When I had a conversation, that person felt that this was, to make this a full-time position, combining it with another, and Joel being the obvious person for it, made the most sense. So that's why this is here.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
The non-athletic co-curricular things, are those under the athletic director? So the clubs and,
Those primarily fall,
that-
they are.
or is it dean of students? I wasn't sure.
Joel oversees both.
Well, that's the reason why I asked, is it was in it, he talked about it in his report, so then I didn't know which hat he was wearing when he wrote that.
Well, but I'm thinking, and Jeff or Jolie, you can weigh in. There are clubs and stuff at the grade school that you guys manage, correct? Yeah. So I'm not sure it's as clearly defined as maybe we should at some point make it.
Okay, but for right now, the grade school's independent, but was it more of his athletic director or his dean of students hat that he was wearing when he was doing the non-athletic extracurricular?
I mean, been here 2 years, and he's been responsible for the middle school clubs and activities as well as all the athletic teams in that 2 years.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the things we're probably gonna have to clarify at some point.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call a vote then. All those in favor? Vote passes 4-0. Okay, new business. Discussion of the creation of Dean of Students position to be shared between the high school and the middle school.
So again, this is, I broke this into two parts because I think I want to give you the opportunity. I mean, some people would say you can just make a motion and then you discuss it as part of the motion, which is fine. I think when it's something new and would require more conversation than that, then I think it warrants a separate discussion. And then depending how you feel about it, we'll move on to the action item, which would be next. So obviously with that action you just took, that we now have a void in the Dean of Students at the middle school and high school. And had a number of different conversations about how to address that or how to do that. And marking Mr. Petrosky as attendant here. So, anyway, so I think we need to have a conversation. And I'm just going to say that I think, as I got thinking about this and maybe getting a little bit of feedback, I will make what I think is the recommendation that I think best supports our school, our size. And then I'll leave it up to you guys. I'm not really looking to, this is ultimately your decision, not looking to fight for a particular point or whatever the case may be. But I think I would like to recommend that we have a person who is the dean of students, and the dean of students goes between the middle school and the high school only, as like the nurse does up there. They're obviously close in proximity. The odds are probably they'll never be where they're supposed to be at the right time, but I think it's close enough. They're close enough proximity that they can do that. And then there'll be, there are some jobs that don't specifically require that they need to be in that place. For instance, a lot of the attendance issues that they deal with, and perhaps maybe some of the non-athletic stuff. Because wasn't sure about that till you asked that. But I think there are a number of things that, to me though, what I would say, if we get a person who's split between two buildings with a singular focus, then I think that's much more workable than other options that we looked at. That's just what I think, and what I was recommending is that we, in my recent report, is that we and I've seen this model in other schools, is that we hire somebody and use the teacher scale plus a stipend. Ultimately, we don't, that doesn't need to be included in the motion because it's involved in the administrative CBA. That's something we'd have to negotiate. But I'm just giving you my sense of how I think it makes work sense for our district and our size, and whatever. Certainly can look at other options, and whatever options we have, or whatever options we come up with. I just know that we are going to ultimately have to. We can create the position, and we have to negotiate the impact. That's the process. So my recommendation is for one full-time person. Yep.
Sally?
So this position would not be a student / active teacher,
Correct.
just be the students.
Correct. That was one of the models we did look at.
Yeah.
Janet?
I just want to point out the fact that you just said to deal with attendance issues. I know that those are huge in a lot of districts with kids, and so ours falls on our secretaries a lot of the time, and then our principal, and just to have someone to help out and deal with that is huge. And to take care of obviously some of the other issues that, dealing with students that would come off principals' plates as well.
Yeah.
So
And
support that.
yeah, and I also want to say, and particularly because Sue is here tonight, this is not certainly not a slap at Sue because she hasn't been in. We can't really do that yet, right? Yet, I said. But in all seriousness, as Karen is leaving, and Karen has been a mainstay. She's sort of run her building in a certain way for some time, and I think, particularly in conversations with Joel, and with Karen and with Mark a little bit, the sense is that we probably need to support Sue, in this case, the principal at the middle school, better than we have in the past, and this seems like the best way to do that. And I think we were fortunate. You would hear this a little bit of a theme from y'all. We didn't have to say too much, but I think we need to be careful as we look at putting together structures that we don't specifically put structures around the individuals who are doing those jobs, because I will say this publicly, and I have no issues with it because I've had this conversation a million times with Joel. I know I can do a good job of separating people from positions, but when I look at those positions and requirements, I often then can go back and put the people in those positions and say, is this being somewhat successful because of the people or because of the structures? And our job, I think, collectively is to put the structures in place that can be supported regardless of who the people are. And I think I don't think Karen would ever say this. I never heard her say this, but did she feel like she didn't have enough support or whatever? No, I don't think she would ever say that. I think she just got comfortable with that. And I think Joel has been doing 3 jobs for God knows how long. I mean, I've only been in 1 year. I recognize it right off the bat. I've done that job for a short period of time. It's really impossible. So I think that was a case where we were taking advantage. The structure really wasn't fair. And we had a person who's so incredibly committed to this system and this district and this town that he made it work. And I don't think that's the way we should do business moving forward. I think we need to put structures in place that are going to work regardless of whether we can have somebody do more than their fair share. And you know what, I'm not looking to get any sympathy, but I think quite frankly, it's also true for me. I think as I've looked at wanting to have, a position like Megan's and wanting to have a position like Mike's and wanting to have some of these other things, when I was hired, the school committee was very clear with me that this superintendency wears, and I can attest to it because I've been in other districts, wears more hats than any other district that I'm familiar with. And that's nice on many levels, but it's not really a good way to set structures up for long-term success. So, and I'd like to say that I feel like I'm very confident with curriculum. I feel like I'm really confident with technology, with special ed, with all of the areas, with high school, middle school, grade school, but I'm not nearly as good focusing on all those issues at the same time than the team collectively is, and I think that's the way we should try to structure things around here. And to me, this does it. This is sort of our last piece that needs to be in place in order to have those the structures, regardless of the people.
And in the long term, the budget can handle it.
Yes, yeah, and we'll watch as this, and I'll be 100% honest. You guys already heard this from me, but some of the history, for those of you who aren't familiar with the history of dean of students, I don't love this history. And it's not my favorite thing to say, but it's honest. Dean of students evolved when there was a recognition that there are some people who really do an amazing job of working with kids and doing the teaching, the process of dealing with students who are disruptive or not doing well in school or whatever the case may be, but don't have the credentials to be an assistant principal. So they created these positions, and they did primarily stay as a result of in the realm of a teacher type of person who takes on these extra responsibilities or takes on that role, and it doesn't require that certification. I think as time goes on, I think what we have to pay attention to is whether we can attract people and keep people as a dean of students, given the way we're going to compensate it, or that someday we have to really take a hard look. It's already in the collective bargaining agreement for the administrators to have the assistant principal position, and as of right now, we're not making that recommendation. I think we have, as I've looked around. Certainly nobody's been promised anything, but I think we have people. I know we have people in this system that would probably want to do this and would do an amazing job of dealing with students. Because it's not. I'm not looking. Even if we're an assistant principal, I don't need somebody to crack the whip. That's not the nature of our system. This is everything we do in this system is about teaching and learning. And this role, which I got to do for 2 years, I said my job is to teach about behaviors and response, and a lot of it comes from even before restorative practices became sort of a buzzword. That's the way I sort of operated, and I want somebody who's going to look at it in that same vein, that students can understand why they're here and why it's important for them to do the best they can while they're here, and it's not about crime and punishment.
Any other questions? We ready to move on to the action? Did you have any questions, Joe?
No,
No.
I had a question for him.
Oh, okay.
Nothing to do with the agenda.
Oh, okay. Oh, did you ask me if you won?
I asked him how we played.
But did you win? Just kidding.
There's no day yet.
I don't know if I won or not. I did win last time.
Oh, congratulations.
You wouldn't know that, but he's actually rubbing it in.
By the way, could I just mention one thing?
Sure.
Out of space here. Josh, I was quite excited to see you were named the MVP Most Valuable Tennis Player of the conference.
Congratulations.
That's your comments. Make sure you didn't.
I was afraid I'd miss it.
Oh,
I've been holding that in all day long.
awesome, Josh.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get this straight. I just had one question about the position. You'll obviously have to carve out a schedule for this person who,
Correct.
let's say, is now teaching, and then would have to give up some classes, no?
No,
Give
it's
up.
gonna be a full-time position.
Full-time position, right?
Not a
It's somebody
teaching.
who is currently a teacher, is what he's saying.
Right.
That is certainly possible. We certainly will advertise in-house first, and then if somebody who's currently teaching, we'd have to advertise them to fill that
That
person.
could be a big change.
Well, I mean, I don't have any problems with that, it's just that you can't have a position without giving them the time to do the position.
Correct.
And that would affect something else too. Now, I'm not against doing the position, so I think we need it.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to create the position of Dean of Students to be shared between the high school and the middle school effective September 1st, 2021.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion?
I just have a question. Why September 1st? Is that,
Well,
don't we
that's-
start school before that?
We do, that's sort of when, if they're on a teacher, whatever, we have to
Number of
negotiate
days.
that. It's
Okay.
really a number of days thing.
Okay, just want to make sure that that is like, if they can start before that, if that's when school starts before that.
Sure, I mean, I would say that we have our administrative retreat earlier in August, and so I would invite the person to that if we have,
Okay,
hopefully we'll have a person by then.
okay.
I mean, we won't hire anybody in that position at the very earliest until July 21st, so.
Could I do a follow-up?
What's that?
Could I do a follow-up?
Yes.
Because it seems like one of the things we've got to do is to have some communication with the families of students who did not come to school this year. And that would, to me, fall into the realm of the dean of students, making sure that whatever we can do to make you comfortable coming back to school is very important. So they might have to start before September 1st.
Yeah, and I think, Megan, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I mean, obviously that, whether it's at the middle school, high school, or grade school, we know that those communications need to happen. We've had some conversations about that and kind of how that's going to occur. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, we've discussed it a little bit in A-Team around reaching out to families and seeing if their what their plans are. I know Mr. Ladd has done some research on the grade school before the school year even ended a little bit too. So we are seeing some movement back to in-person, but registrations happen throughout the summer, and if we need to take more action, we certainly will.
We're looking to target two groups that you probably would imagine. We have a number of students who did remote, and we're not offering, well, I hope, that our plan is to not offer any remote option next year. And the other is we had a pretty substantial, relatively substantial percentage of students who went to homeschool. And quite frankly, those are the ones that I hope we can target even more so, because the remote students are still ours, so we don't lose anything financially for the remote students that we anticipate will be coming back. If the remote students go to homeschool, that'll be a big loss for us. But we're really hoping, that doesn't appear to be the case. Most of them appear to be coming back. But the homeschool students, we're hoping to get a sizable percentage of those kids to come back, which again is tied to a later agenda item here, so we'll talk about it more. Which point is well taken.
Any other thoughts or questions or discussion? All right, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Vote passes unanimously. Okay, I will entertain a motion to elect Sandra McQuinn in the high school, as the high school guidance for the 2021-2022 school year as recommended by the superintendent of schools.
So moved.
Second?
And seconded, discussion.
I just want to add that one of the things Mr. Campbell and I have spoken about is trying to make sure we provide some additional support for anybody coming in. Obviously, we've had a pretty, not a very good run of guidance, keeping guidance people at the high school over the last few years, and so our goal is to do that. I have reached out to a friend of mine who's a retired guidance counselor, an outstanding guidance counselor, and he is, has said that he's been very willing to come in and work with, provide guidance, be a mentor to whatever terms you want to use to be a real strong support. Our other guidance people in the district have done, I met with them, they were concerned that they weren't doing enough to support. They're sort of, but their nature of their work is not the same, but they were meeting on a regular basis this year, which I was not aware of. And so they told me that they were concerned that they maybe weren't doing enough. And I think they will continue to do that and try to support, in this case, Ms. McQuinn, to hopefully stem that tide and turn it around so we hire somebody and keep that person there for a good lengthy period of time.
Did you want to add anything, Mr. Campbell, or are you all set?
Ms. McQuinn's coming from Taden Middle School, High School. Her principal sent great positive comments down in regards to her ability to assist seniors with their post-secondary planning, with the testing at the high school, both state and AP, as well as SAT if have students wanting to do that. Also had great comments about her ability to put together a master schedule. She had to do 2 buildings. So great accolades for the young lady.
Do we know if she's moving this way or if she's going to do that commute every day?
She is looking to, she came from Texas, and she got a rude awakening moving to the county. So she's hoping for a little less snow and a little warmer weather down here in the Winthrop area.
That would be really emotionally taxing.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor? Vote passes unanimously. I will entertain a motion to elect Carolyn Rideout as middle school ELA for the 2021-22 school year as recommended by the superintendent of schools.
So moved.
Second, sorry.
I'm afraid at you.
I was just wondering if anybody else felt the burning need to second.
They're very comfortable with my seconding.
Okay.
First and seconded, any discussion?
So we don't have anybody from the middle school?
I do have,
Awesome.
yeah, and I'm very excited about Caroline. She was very enthusiastic. She has 6 years of experience in ELA, and what really impressed the committee was that her master's degree is in, focus was in curriculum development. And since we're looking at developing that curriculum, we're very excited to have her on board. Yeah, she lives in Pittston and got her master's at Endicott College. So.
Does she have a Texas connection too?
You know what? I think yes, because she got her BA at Dallas County Community College.
So I think my first question for her was, did we misspell your name? And she said, no, that is the way we spell it in Texas. So I said,
And I asked her for the I said, could you phonetically, I said, I usually do the 8th grade recognition at Tripp. And one year, 4 kids had the same last name, 4 different pronunciations. So I always like to make sure I don't want to butcher anybody's name. So.
But you're probably sensitive to that, because I know your last name is Pilot, which just seems easy enough, but we put the E on the end, they're like, is it Pilo?
Yeah. Any other comments, questions? All right, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Vote passes unanimously. I will entertain a motion to elect Elena Norton as the Spanish teacher at the Winthrop High School for the 2021-22 school year as recommended by the superintendent of schools.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion.
I just have a question. I am super excited because I know that she speaks Spanish amazingly, but certification, is she certified?
She is, so I'm always careful, she is
I know.
certifiable.
That's okay. That's all I need to know. Thank you.
She has a degree from Madrid.
Yes.
She probably is going to need some methods classes. She's already passed the AFCLE test as far as speaking and writing and listening in Spanish. And we are very excited, as you are, to have her on board. She's a bundle of energy, and she's very excited about not only bringing the language, but the culture. And clearly, has the expertise.
The name sounds familiar
Yes, it
to you.
does.
She has been working for us for the past 7 years at the grade school in special ed as an Ed Tech 3. So she is very well said. Meeting with her, she's pretty excited. She'd already scheduled some time with Kelsey before she leaves, and really excited to do it. And obviously, she's a native speaker, so this will be really, really good, I think.
Anything else? All right, all those in favor? He did, okay. Thank you. Vote passes unanimously. That was a quick vote, Joe.
Already up there.
That's right, Holly covered too.
I'm so proud of her. My sister's so
All right, I will entertain a motion to transfer funds between articles in the budget to ensure that no line is overdrawn in accordance with Maine law, and as recommended by the superintendent of schools. The amounts to transfer are listed below.
And that's where there's some changes.
Yes, there are changes, but they're changes even to your update?
Yes.
Okay.
So how do we do that motion?
If you just move, then whoever makes the motion, and whoever makes the second can make a friendly amendment. Just, I'll tell you what it's supposed to be.
Okay. So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded.
So, if you just read down through Article 4, it says 15,000, that'll be going to Article 10. So Article 4, that 15,000 goes to Article 10. And Article 8, that 35,000, it goes to Article 7. All the rest of it is as written.
So I move to
You can just make a friendly amendment if you're not
Okay.
opposed to that. If
okay,
you're
a
second,
friendly amendment as given by Superintendent Hodgkin.
Second, the friendly amendment.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, question?
Well, I guess I do have one question.
Yep.
Article 10 is debt services.
Yep.
What do we still owe for?
So that's a question I had, that's actually been in the hole, whatever, 12,000 it is, for some time, so I had to get clarification, because that's state debt,
Okay.
So they are supposed to fund it, we're a pass-through, we never actually get that money. So they tell us how much we owe, and then they take it out, and they took out more than we expected them to.
Gotcha.
So I just said, so because it's not really ours, do we have to make that whole? And they said, yes, you do. So,
So that's why you transferred from Article 4 to 10.
correct.
Any other?
And, yep, no, I just was gonna point out, while I'm doing that, I meant to do that before, that's why I highlighted these. Article 7, school administration, which is almost entirely salaries at this point. There are no outstanding other items, but school administration is over by $30,477.87. I did not, I don't think that's in your report. That's,
No.
like I said, remember told you I ran it today? That was the one after the payroll was run yesterday. That's where that ended up, and that's why the 35,000 is transferred there to cover that. But we could just not pay the school administrators this year, but
Yeah, that's gonna work out
I
really
don't
well.
think that's gonna work.
There. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Vote passes unanimous. All right, just make sure I'm not forgetting something here. Okay, discussion of recommendations for the opening of school for the 2021-22 school year as proposed by the Back to School Committee.
So, I sent you a copy of the draft, and I included, there's a lot of stuff in yellow in the back that was just the outline that we worked from. But we met today, Back to School Committee met today, and you have Sue representing the school committee on that committee, and we didn't spend a great deal of time today because the reality is we're gonna basically ask you to table the motion to approve that because been some significant changes at the state level with respect to back to school and masking and distancing and virtually everything. And based on my conversation with the Kennebec Valley superintendents last week, and Dan Schutter, the deputy commissioner, it looks like there's more changes that are going to be coming. And you know that all of the, I mean, our students will be great examples tonight of wearing their masks, but those that will not be necessary after June 30th. It's not technically necessary now. I guess technically it is necessary now, but whatever. But that's going away, and right now it's going to be, very few. And so we decided we would recommend that you table this motion and we wait and see what happens, and we bring it back up again in August when we have some more guidance or less guidance or whatever from the state. I will still say one of the things that the reason I still want it on here is we don't need to officially vote on it. I just would like to know, I would like to write an article, maybe with Emily here, maybe we can do it both locally and at the region level. But to say that we are going to return to school at 5 days a week next year, and that there may be some other particulars with respect to masking and distancing that will be voted on, decided in August. I'm still maintaining that with what we've purchased this year for devices, that our schools, our classrooms are virus-free, and that unless something very bizarre happens between now and then, that we're going to be back in place and we're not going to require masking in the classrooms at all. But there was a lot of conversation today. But I guess what I'm really looking for, I don't want to get too far with that, is I want to be able to have a sense from you that it's okay to go ahead and write something in the paper about we will be going back to school 5 days a week this year. I want the community to know sort of clearly now that they should be planning on that, and that's where we're going, and
That no remote.
that there'll be no remote options either. So, and that's pretty much it. I don't think we need to. We started down there. I was hoping it was all the meeting was going to be today, and then we started. What if this? What if that? And it's like, what? A lot of the things we won't know. I can't answer right now because we may or may not get any guidance on it. If we get guidance, we're going to have to go with that. If we don't get guidance, we're going to have to decide. And the only thing I would say that I'm ready to stick my ground, my position is masking. I think we should still mask on buses.
There's a potential that might be required, right?
There's a potential that might be required. Yeah, Larry Allen, who's the transportation liaison with Northeast Charter, he said right now federal regulations require charter buses and light charter bus, which includes school buses, that they have to stay masked until the middle of September. And then it's either going to sunset or it'll be re-upped. For me, I would like to take advantage of that. Now I'm doing it. I'd like to take advantage of that to say, let's make it a requirement to be masked. So what we started, the rabbit hole we started to go down today, and I don't want to do it here because it's probably going to happen in August, is how do we encourage people to be vaccinated, not require them to be, but then how do we differentiate between those who are vaccinated and what restrictions they may not have or might have versus those that choose not to be vaccinated. And then there's still the issue of pool testing, which I think we've pretty much have said we're not interested in. The Kennebec Valley superintendents are also not interested in. But what are the ramifications? Sue brought this up of students or teachers who are required to quarantine because of whether either a positive test or whatever, and close contacts. This year, if you were a close contact, you could not test out of it. The whole purpose behind pool testing was to essentially allow people to test out of it. We can just choose to do that. But again, what I'd like to do is not
An individual test.
right an individual test, right? Not to go down or even begin that conversation right now because it's undoubtedly going to be a topic over the next couple of months at the state level. So it makes no sense for us to take any action on a plan tonight, except I'd like you to just just through consensus, not a vote, just say that you're okay with me putting that out, writing that out.
Yes. I think it's great. I think that it's great to keep the community
Yeah.
informed as soon as possible, as far as we can right now.
I'm not really playing devil's advocate because I do believe this to be true. We have some families that have a student who has such medical issues that unless the government comes out and says, no, it's perfectly safe, and it's like a guarantee. It's not us saying it, it's the official people saying it. Probably are not comfortable sending their kids to school and would want to have a remote continue for them.
I mean,
I don't think we can say no to this.
I'm sure we can. And I don't want to even begin to go down that road.
Well, I think it needs to, it's going to need, I think, to be addressed.
Well, the place it's going to be addressed is through special ed.
So would it be like a, tutor?
I don't know. We would have to have an IEP. I wouldn't speculate on how that would happen, but that would be the process. I don't want to do is start to say, well, unless there's special circumstances and whatever. I think the answer is, and this is pretty much consensus in the Valley Superintendents, is we're not having remote options.
I mean, I don't think we're ever going to be able to 100% guarantee that nobody's ever going to get COVID again, ever. So what do you do then? Do you always have to have remote? I mean,
Well, no, I understand.
You know what I'm saying?
But obviously, if you are a parent and your doctor says, or somebody just says, look, you got to keep this kid away from the situation where they could be. And then we are going to be, maybe that's where this collaborative thing we've been trying to work with in some of these problems with our neighborhood schools has got to be that maybe we need them to come up with, a solution to it. How do we teach these kids if they're not going to come to school because they've been advised not to come to school?
I think we need to take a look at it, but I think we need to be careful not to let the exception become the rule. And I think that's what I'm trying to protect against,
Well, then I'd like to propose that we consider the second thing. I think we should go on record and have a policy of saying, you cannot go to school and you cannot teach at our school or do anything in our school unless you are fully vaccinated. Period.
I think, I don't personally disagree with that, but legally, there's no way that's going to stand.
Well, I don't disagree. I happen to think that this may be the legal challenge that needs to be presented.
well, let me ask you, be your devil's advocate. What about folks who can't get the vaccine because of health reasons?
Then they are more susceptible to COVID than some other people would be. I mean, I don't want them in my school.
What if there's something about the vaccine that they're not
allergic to?
They're right, and
Then they don't belong in school.
but the people who, that doesn't make any sense, Joe.
Well, no, it makes sense in the sense that you've got to find another alternative for them to actually having them go to school. I just think the question is that you don't stop something like this unless you take and be specific about what you're trying to do. And what we're trying to do is to say, you can't come to this school, you can go anywhere else you want to go to. Or maybe we've got another solution for you. But I don't want you in my school. I want the least possible danger.
I don't want my name attached to that. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I'm just bringing this up because I think that's the question we're presented.
I actually was, because I had a whole, that was my whole list, I had a whole list to talk about that stuff, but not going to guarantee it was August. I think I would never want the staff to know who has vaccine and who doesn't, at a certain right. And it's a personal choice, and that's why I was concerned if we start asking the staff, have you been vaccinated? I think same as business. And then if we do that, they're going to be isolated because they're going to be 5 staff at high school, 3 staff at the grade school walking around mass whole career. I mean, it just doesn't. And again, just the data is no one's gotten a second stigma in school yet. Not one person, so just to protect the staff.
The other thing is, it's going to be tricky, maybe it feels unfair, but to me, it feels like it's, again, the majority. The rule is that an overwhelming percentage, well over 90%, just off the top of my head, are, or I would even say it differently. It's probably be less than 1 to 5% of the population that will fit in that category. And I think I think we carry the notion of FAPE too far sometimes. And all students are entitled to FAPE, but as I remember Eric Harlan from Drum Woods was saying, the term is free appropriate public education. Nowhere does it say of your choosing. So we'll offer a program. We have a responsibility to look at exceptions and deal with them as an exceptional standpoint, not as a rule. So I think our rule should be that we are back at school without a remote option, and then we deal with the people. But I don't want to promote that. If we promote that, then I think people will go start looking for all kinds of options. We'll be dealing with that type of thing. And I think our job is to get our kids back to school as much as we can.
Let me just carry this one step, because I don't really know the full answer, but what do we now require? When and what do we require now of students to have as in terms of vaccinations, okay, before they come to school?
Because it's required by the state.
Right.
There's a list that they have to have. We have, I don't know if any of the administrators know off the top of their head, I think the grade school is in pretty good shape. I think it's the middle school and high school, which surprisingly had, I want to say like 20 or 30 kids on that list still.
Our campground's what they need at Long.
Menachanaco or something like that. So,
But there's a bunch of them. And again, it's what you said before, Joe. I would 100% agree with it in this case. That's completely out of our hands. We have no choice about this. The government is saying these kids have to have this, or they can't come to your school. And
We can't offer remote for those students either.
Well, I'm just saying, I think we have to think about it in terms of that this could all happen real suddenly. There are people out there right now who are just simply saying schools can only be safe if everybody in the schools have been vaccinated. So that's a real cause.
But you have other people who don't believe that.
I'm just
So-
saying, they're a minority, maybe, or maybe they're a majority, I don't know. But the fact is, we already require, not us, but the state, already requires that certain things take place in order for you to go to school. I don't think you can escape it whether you like it or not. If enough people don't just do it and get vaccinated, if we don't feel safe about where we stand, we got to do something.
Well, that is the exact point, and maybe I overstate this too often. I've overstated perhaps with the back to school committee, but I feel very confident that the devices that we put in place, the O2 Prime and the ARIS, they are, all of the research that's behind that supports the notion that in those rooms that have those, it kills 100% of the viruses. Now, where it falls a little bit short of what you're saying is that's coming from the people who are selling it. But it's used in NASA, it's used in hospitals, it's used, in really, important places. So I feel really comfortable, and this kind of actually goes to what Tim was saying. I think there needs to be some motivation to be vaccinated, but at the same time, I feel like I'm being exceptionally hypocritical when I say our classrooms and our spaces with Univents are 100% virus-free. So there's no good reason that anybody should wear a mask or have to worry about distancing in those spaces. So that makes the need for people to stay away from school a moot point. It makes the need for vaccinated, not vaccinated to be a moot point. And that's why what I said to the Back to School Committee today was, is the two places, I initially had said 3. The 2 places that I think I would recommend, unless something changes between now and we start school in the fall, are buses, which sounds like that's not going to change at least till after September because of their federal regulations, and passing in the hallways. Next year, I don't believe that we will be doing the, first of all, I think the middle school will be passing, the kids will be passing, the teachers will be staying in their room, which will make them thrilled. And the kids will, the high school will not need to do the extra miles, although that's really too bad because they won't be as physically fit. But, you know, I think those things are not necessary, but I would still say that maybe it just makes sense right now. This is where I'm thinking today on June 16th, that maybe they should mask when they're in a hallway. But it makes no sense to me based upon the investments that we've made that our kids need to be masked in spaces that have unit events and are essentially virus-free. That includes our cafeterias and our gyms, our big spaces. So, but I guess we're already getting into this. It's like these are conversations we're going to have a little more, hopefully, a little more clarity on come August. I guess the question I'm asking again, is there anybody who objects to putting out the notion that we are going to have going back to school 5 days a week next year?
Are you also going to say that there is not a remote option?
And I'm going to say there's no remote option as
Because
well.
that's a big, that's a
We're not
big
planning,
thing.
we're not
Yeah.
planning to have any remote options. I think that, and interestingly, Sue was saying, I don't know if she said it here or she said that 18, talked about Augusta was looking at doing the pool testing, but they really just were exploring to see if there was any interest or whatever the case may be. And as it turned out, and I know it was a pretty quick turnaround on the survey according to Sue, but that they only got one school. In order to do it, you have to get 30%. They only had one school that got 30% of the people said they were willing to do it. They were the only one that was even exploring that possibility. Nobody else was even exploring it. So,
Emily?
I know we had talked about this a little while ago and had been considering pushing it back to next school year, but you decided against the hour late start on Wednesdays versus the half days.
right. That needs more. That's something I'm still personally interested in, but we decided not to take that on this year.
Okay.
So what I'd like to suggest that you do is again, we're not supposed to do things from a negative, we're not supposed to have negative emotions. So if we move on to the next thing to approve the recommendations, then we have a motion and a second, then we can vote to table it. What I would recommend is you vote to table it till August.
Okay.
All right, so
If you're ready, I'm not sure you're ready.
Are we ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Could I just add one thing? Because I just want to say the fact is, we've done so much more than other school systems have done,
Right.
okay? Which is, to me, just why everybody should be sending their kids to us. Really, because the rest of them we've got to catch up to. And I'm really glad about that, because we can say all of that. I'm not against, Jim, the fact that people have rights and stuff like that. But I am saying that history shows that we do some of these things. And why not be one step ahead and look at this and say, oh, look, that's what it comes down to.
So in a lot of cases, I don't mind being the test case for some things. That's not something I'm interested in being the test case for. What's another lawsuit?
That's right.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve the recommendation for the opening of school draft for the 2021-22 school year as recommended by the back to school committee.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded, discussion.
I would just ask that you vote to table that.
So do I make a motion to do that?
You
I move to table this until our August meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
There was no discussion.
Oh, there isn't, oh, okay. See, I learn every day. Okay. So then I will call the vote. All those in favor? Vote passes unanimously.
Thank you all.
Okay. I will entertain a motion to elect Jeff Ladd as the grade school guidance counselor for the 2021-2022 school year as recommended by the superintendent of schools.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded, discussion.
Jolene, you want to talk about this candidate?
Does anybody know?
So Mr. Jeffrey Ladd comes to us with many accolades. So Jeff and I have been talking over the last week or so because he really has been and continues to be so dedicated to this community
that he really isn't ready to leave this community and Winthrop grade school. And he said at one time he even considered approaching me and saying, Jolene, how about you and I just switch positions? You can take this one and I'll, anyhow. He has a behavioral background, which is how he started here at Winthrop grade school and then became assistant principal and then principal. And this is a 2-year position. And as Jeff described it, it allows him to come full circle. He gets to come back to the kids, which is where he started, which is the reason he got into education. He never intended to be an administrator, although he's been here 20 years as an assistant principal and principal. So I'm thrilled, so excited. Can I share about the window thing? And I said to him,
You're the boss now.
So I said to him yesterday I said, there's only one thing that I'm apprehensive about. I said, and it's, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I said, because I think it's going to be hard, like this is who you are. This is your building, your staff, your kids. So I said to him, I said, I do not want to see you in the upstairs window with your nose pressed against the window in tears because I'm greeting the kids off the bus. and he's like, can't I just be out there? And I said, well, I don't know. We'll see about that. So I'm so thrilled. The staff is going to be so surprised. They are not even going to see this coming. Christy Grant happened to be in today, who is our full-time guidance counselor. She happened to be in today, and she was doing a happy dance. So we are so excited to have Mr. Ladd stay on with us for 2 years, and the kids are going to be thrilled also to see him in a different capacity, and it's what he really wanted to do, and it works out so well for all of us. So we're thrilled. Yeah.
Questions? Does this position work with Christy or replace Christy?
It's the second counselor, right?
Okay.
This is for the
COVID impact.
COVID impact.
Well, it's 1 year at a time, we're not
Oh.
jumping ahead. It's, if he messes up this year, no.
Oh, I was going to say, it was for 2 years. I don't know what it is.
She's thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah, I know.
It is, and we do anticipate it will be a 2-year position.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Vote passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you very much.
And you don't have to sit through school committee meetings anymore.
Any public comments?
Any public to comment?
Yeah, there's really no public. No? No? Okay. Then I will move along to the school committee comments. Janet?
This doesn't have to be discussed now, but I know maybe for the next agenda, we had talked about, and I don't know where we are in this, looking at student activity accounts, funding, or fees, sorry. So maybe if we could put that on a future agenda, so I don't forget to bring that up in our meeting or pre-agenda meeting or whatever. And just congratulations on a great end of the school year. Class night, graduation, all of that was awesome and amazing, and I was just happy to be a part of it.
Timothy?
I don't have too much today other than the 10-member Winthrop boys is going for a championship on Tuesday in Rambler.
Yay!
Awesome.
Fabulous. Kelly?
So this weekend, I decided to try this new To Us breakfast joint in town. And I had seen all of the yard signs for all of the graduating seniors, but I hadn't seen any of the individual sports signs. Wouldn't you know, your face was plastered on the wall. And I sent a text message to the only person I know who knows everything that's going on in Winthrop and said, why is his face on the wall at this place? We went to the Pond Town Pub and Grub for breakfast.
Oh.
And there you were in your whole, it was huge, with your tennis stuff, and I just thought that was so cool. I hadn't seen that for anybody before. So that was really neat. She didn't know.
Is that Gianna?
Yeah.
She
I
does know
know,
everything going on.
Not at first.
I didn't know where you were.
Oh, that's true. I
She
sent
sent
her
the
a
picture, she said, do you know where I am? I'm like, no. Where are you? Then I know.
Joe?
I did attend class night. I squirreled my way in, I found a seat. I'm actually quite disappointed there weren't more people at class night. And, I have this one thing that is, and this isn't really being critical, but I can say from my own experience, it took me a couple of years to warm up to the fact that students really appreciated when their teachers went to these graduation ceremonies and had a chance to introduce their parents to you, and I just like seeing you around so they could say thank you. And I think in some ways, at least on class night, I would like to see more others there with their teachers, just to share in some of the memories that are created from the recognition that they received. I was really pleased with all the awards that were given out and everything. But to me, the highlight was when Principal Campbell talked about the number of students who were taking online courses connected with either community colleges or colleges. And I've spoken to the superintendent about it because I'd like to see those remarks in writing somewhere, perhaps get into the community advertisement so they can be shared with others in the community who, if you had been here for many years, you would have seen me every year giving my speech about goals. And part of it was, I want to see the opportunity for these students to pick up some college credits while they're still in high school. And I've talked to parents who have asked me the question, is it really true that you can take courses for college now and they'll count later on? And in some cases, because you did it in such a way as to show percentages of students that were doing it, and then to highlight the students that really had got a year's worth of credits. I mean, this is fabulous. This is the type of thing you want to have happen. And I congratulate you because you really have spent time getting this process going. I think being very successful. And I hope we can continue it. So last night was a real highlight for me. I really absolutely enjoyed it. And it also gave me another opportunity to know some people in that class. A name's a name, you know, but I really enjoy getting to know some of the students a little bit, at least more personally. Like I know where Josh is. You know, he's in the tavern all the time. Or on the tennis court or something at this station. And tonight, some of our girls are playing with the Winthrop Miranda Cook lacrosse team, girls lacrosse team against Winthrop. Think what that would be if we beat Winthrop tonight. That would be fantastic.
So can you tell me again what you recognized Josh for earlier for MV?
He was the most valuable player for the Mountain Valley Conference in tennis.
Congratulations.
The MVP for the MVC.
Are you done? Okay. I had one other thing that I had been thinking of and didn't write down. I was really impressed with the Facebook page for the high school. Initially, I had only seen any of the students who were going on to colleges, and I was a little bit concerned that we were only saying something about kids who were going on to college and not kids who were going directly into the workforce. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. But I was really happy to finally see some of those come across my feed that we were also bringing that to life, because college isn't for everybody, and I don't know if I would have gone if my parents hadn't pushed me. I would have done something different.
I don't know if you got to see the Instagram they highlighted everybody, and then also at graduation, their class president read everybody's name, and she also said what they were doing
Glad
after.
to hear.
It was really nice. Yeah. Yeah, really nice. Thank you for that, Kelly. Josh?
Just thank you for everything, guys. This is one last meeting, I guess. No, but thank you so much for everything. I learned so much from every one of you, and I think I kind of said this last time. I learned something new every day, or every time, every meeting that I'm here. It's been great, and I'm so excited, and I'd like to update that I still haven't finished my candy that you guys made me. That's a lot. I still have a lot of it. But no, thank you. I'm super excited, and always have a place to come back at home. You guys, I'm kind of mad at you guys for making me like so interested in everything, like talking with everything that's coming up. Like, oh man, I'm not going to be there for the discussions. Kind of seems sour. Yeah.
You've left it in
Well,
good hands.
And when you're on break, you can come.
Wait, we don't break, we don't meet on break.
Well, he's college.
Yeah. he has
We all
much
different.
break.
You don't have to go on spring break, you can come here.
What do you say to that?
And thank you for everything you've done.
Yes. Thank
You've had
you.
such a great liaison between us and the schools. Really appreciate it. Onward?
I also wanted to say I was able to attend the graduation, and that was really, really nice and organized super well, and it was just awesome to see everyone together, and also at our underclassmen, like, so, yes, thank you. We were able to all sit, or the 3 grades were able to all sit in the PAC together, and that was just, it was kind of crazy, like definitely took that for granted last year that we were able to do that for every town meeting, but it was amazing to be able to do that for the first time this year. And also, I mean, seeing news about the maps and everything, like it is, I'm definitely a bit like nervous about our discussion in August, but I'm also very excited to be able to take these steps forward for the next school year. I think everyone is. And then also, I want to say thank you to Josh for kind of pushing me into this position. But I really enjoyed it, and I think, I don't know, I'm very grateful to you, so thank you.
Well, we're glad you're coming back next year.
Yes.
And as far as those discussions go in August, we'll have a lot more facts with the science too, and the numbers and all that stuff too, so that'll all go right into all of that discussion. I just wanted to say, it was something I believe that Joel pointed out in his report, but he can't be here today, so I just wanted to congratulate James Cognata for setting a new school record in the 400 meter at 50.62 seconds. So I just want to acknowledge James for that. And then just to remind everybody that our next committee meeting will not be until July 21st. So get a little bit of a summer break. And now I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session to discuss administrators' negotiations pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056D.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
And we're not anticipating any motions coming up.